A very good morning and a warm welcome to one and all present over here, teachers. Thank you so much for joining on another Super Sunday workshop. And this time we are going to get into Implementable Lesson Plan Part 2. And this is going to be the last. We are not going to talk about lesson plan more. We started this particular agenda of lesson plan from the last two Sundays by talking about Benjamin Bloom's taxonomy, the first aspect. Right after that, we got into Implementable Lesson Plan Part 1, which was more about purpose of education, understanding that every country has got its own agenda of their own education system. We understood the snippets. We understood about Indian education system from the snippets of National Education Policy 2020. And then we concluded the session with what should a lesson plan have. And right after this, today we're going to get into some formats, the different styles of lesson planning, and that's how we'll end the session today. So lesson planning is not just about understanding what you're supposed to speak in a particular period. It's about understanding what you're supposed to speak in a particular period and understanding what you're supposed to speak in a particular time. It's about understanding what you're supposed to speak in a particular period and understanding what you're supposed to speak in a particular time. It's about understanding what you're supposed to speak in a particular period and understanding what you're
So
supposed
you
to
are not
speak
audible, sir.
in a particular time. It's about understanding what you're supposed to speak in a
You are not
particular
audible.
time and understanding what you're supposed to speak
I
in a
think your
particular time.
microphone has some
It's
problem.
about understanding what you're supposed to speak in a particular time and understanding what you're supposed to speak in a particular time. Is my voice audible right now, teachers? Right now, yes, no, okay. I don't know what happened. I just disconnected and connected again. So I'll begin from the beginning. Okay, done. Thank you. Thank you so much. A very warm welcome to one and all present over here, teachers. Thank you so much for joining on another Super Sunday workshop. And this time we are getting into the session number 107 on Implementable Lesson Plan Part 2. We began this whole agenda of lesson planning two Sundays back, starting from Bloom's taxonomy. We understood that learning can be attributed to three areas. Without these three things, learning can never be complete. You'll not believe the same is even there as a circular for teacher training program by CBSE very recently. I'll show that as well today. So it was basically about knowledge, skills, and attitude getting converted to cognitive, psychomotor, and affective domain. Interestingly, we are talking about Bloom's taxonomy because it is directly related to something called as competency. Competency of an individual is the result of the consideration of all the three aspects: knowledge, skills, and attitude towards solving a real life problem. And that's what we've been trying to establish right from the beginning in all our Super Sunday workshops. But in Bloom's taxonomy workshop, we did that a little extra. Right after that, in the second session where we spoke about implementable lesson plan part 1, it was more from the perspective of purpose of education. We understood that every country has got its own agenda and every country's vision of their education system is completely different, which is completely acceptable. But though the words or the sentences seem to be nearly the same, but indirectly they very nicely communicate what exactly is that one strong point that we're getting into. And in India, we got into NEP and we understood what's their agenda. And with that, we understood that competency based education is the way forward, and the textbooks are also getting changed. So, the moment we talk about lesson plan that are implementable, we concluded the last session with the purpose of education and with the point called as lesson plan must consist. Now, in this particular session, we are going to get into different formats of lesson plan, few countries what are they using, and the moment we talk about lesson plan, it's very imperative for us to talk about one more important term called as instructional design. We'll talk about these things and conclude the session today. I'll also share one drive link or a Google spreadsheet link, which has got certain formats of various lesson plans and it's getting updated parallelly. Probably you could start using it and you can see, okay, these are the various lesson plans out there. Before even we start, I would like to quickly show you the CBSE's format of lesson planning as well, and based on that, we'll continue the session. For me, this particular aspect of lesson plan, this particular session, it's not going to be about sharing my knowledge or our idea of what lesson plan could be. We're going to purely talk from the perspective of existing theories. So somewhere, this particular session is going to be definitely a revision of what you might already know to a large extent. And let's see how much new information we gather with this particular session. Let's quickly get on with the session today, teachers. Thank you so much for joining this Super Sunday as well. It really gives a lot of responsibility for the people out there. I think we have started the new academic year, and the new rule of the teacher training has come. I think most of you might know about it. Let us look into the circular eventually. The next Super Sunday workshop is going to be related to that, including the changes in the NCRT curriculum. Oh, it's interesting, quite interesting. Yeah, before we start, happy National Maritime Day. The first India-owned ship called as SS Loyalty leaving the Mumbai port to London on April 6th, 1919. Yeah, that's special about today. And of course, happy Ram Navami to everyone. Let's go and quickly start with the session. So this is what we have done in the past. Where am I? Today we are there at Super Sunday Workshop Series, session 107. All these sessions can be accessed on Super Teacher official YouTube channel, teachers. All are there. All the recordings are present over there. We spoke about knowledge, skills, and attitude forming the basic of any learning process. We try to merge that with Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive, psychomotor, and affective domain. It is important for us to understand that competency-based education includes all the three domains, and that's why it's very special and different. Then we understood the difference between hard skill and soft skills a little bit. Hard skill is more on the cognitive domain, and soft skill is more on metacognition level, like negotiation, decision making, financial forecasting, and market analysis under economic principles. You can go through the session again, we'll get into it. Then we understood what exactly is competency. It's basically the ability of a person to solve the real life problems with the right knowledge, skills, and attitude, attaining high levels of better cognition. I would like to interrupt over here. I would like to say that National Education Policy 2020 use the same terminologies by calling it as knowledge, skills, and values and dispositions. In fact, they say it values, dispositions, and then skills and knowledge. They have prioritized the affective domain. You'll understand that with the chapters as well. Metacognition is the ability to think about and control our own thought process. It's like self-reflection and introspection. Very important. That's what was done in the last, the first week, and then the last week we understood purpose and perspective to education, and we compared this with various countries, including India. Then these are the different countries that we got into. I'm just quickly going through so that we can quickly refresh what exactly happened. We understood national education policy says that or envisions an education system rooted in Indian ethos that contributes directly to transforming India, Bharat, sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all and thereby making India as a global knowledge superpower. That's the vision. And in this particular vision, when they mention Indian ethos, it's important for us to have Indian examples given in our textbook. And that's why the fractions chapter of grade 6, or any chapter for that matter, starts with roti, chapati, and not really pizza. I hope you understood the point. So that was the connection between, policy level things. And then we also spoke about intellectual and emotional considerations of the children. In fact, the first period of a particular subject will be completely different from the last period. I mean, just imagine you're going to teach a particular topic. And today the children are there in the class, and this is a first period. The way we are going to teach the children is going to be completely different. And if the same children are coming at the last period of the school, then the way we are going to teach is complete. And this cannot be captured on a lesson plan. That's quite a tricky scenario. Anyways, as per the national education policy, this is how the things get categorized. The first is aims of education. We understood that. Right after that, we got into the understanding that it's something called as curricular goals rather than calling it as a subject. Then we understood there is something called as competency that they're writing for each and every chapter. And then we have something called as learning outcomes. So based on these hierarchy, which they call as learning standards, teaching and learning standards, and based on this, the whole lesson plan is drafted. In fact, CBSE has already written the learning outcomes for each and every chapter. By the way, the old textbooks, the new textbooks, eventually they'll start working on it. This we can access from the competency based education resources. So when they say from aims to learning outcomes, this is called as the flow down, clear flow down that must connect aims to curricular goals to competencies to learning outcomes. So by default, our lesson plan should comprise of all these four components: aims, curricular goals to competencies to learning outcomes. And this was written, I think, in a very simple format. Well, that's the National Curriculum Framework document. Let's go forward. Uh, yeah, through smart learning objectives, writing it as specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. This was again last week's session. And finally, we had concluded by saying that lesson plan must consist of aims of education, then curricular goals, then competencies, then learning outcomes, then learning objectives. These are the things that must be written. But look at the next one: break down time with purpose. This is your duty on all of the above. Plan hands-on real-world task on all of the above. I hope you're able to understand. Or mix assessment across domains, keeping in mind all of the above. So whatever we have from point number 6 to point number 10, it's more of a teacher's job, which people generally call as pedagogy. And the first five areas is basically the curriculum. So when we divide our task of lesson plans, it can either be divided into knowledge, skill, and attitude. That could be one way of writing it, or else it could also be divided from teacher's perspective of curriculum, pedagogy, and assessments. These are the three things that could be included. Whatever we have written over here, whatever you're looking at, this is more of a pedagogical approach towards lesson planning. Let's go to the next one, which is going to be today's session. And we've established teacher is a messenger. You remember? Yeah, you are the ones going to take full care of it. Anyways, let me quickly stop share the screen and talk about something very important. Teachers, the moment we get into anything from format perspective, now it's very important to understand formatting. Why formats are very important? Formats basically ensures that there are certain headers on the lesson plan and we definitely write it. There are times when you have it in your mind, oh, I have to give this example to the students, and right after 40 minutes when you come out of the class, you'll be like, oh, I missed giving this example. Okay, let me try giving in the next. Suppose if you had written it down on a piece of paper and probably it was there in front of you, you would have, kind of remembered it. It's just like a template. And you know what? Template plays a larger role than we actually perceive. For example, how many of you like movies? I do not know in this group, but I'm assuming that being in India, cinema is celebrated a lot. Heroes are considered to be gods, in fact. So here in our country, there is always a template to cinema. I think most of you might know this. The first template would be, you remember, there used to be template quite famous. There are two brothers. They get on a train because they were running away from something, and unfortunately, one brother is there on one bogie, the other brother is there on the other bogie. And they both sleep off. By the time when they wake up, they know that one part of the train went to one area, the other part of the train went to another area. The whole movie is going to be about how they're going to meet again in the climax of the movie. Based on this particular template, there are at least hundreds of movies that has already come. I think you're able to relate to this. There'll be another template, especially from romance and love story point of view. Yeah, that was Adoki Bharat. Then there is this romance point wherein a young, basically two toddlers, 2 or 3 years old, they were playing in a garden or in a hospital somewhere, and they were interacting with each other. They were just playing, and by mistake, their hands got touched with each other, and then they get separated for various reasons. They do their in like college education, school education at two different places, and they meet quite a lot, like quite a late time in future, and then they get married, and then it's concluded that they were always destined to be together or something like that. Based on this particular template and format, there are at least hundreds of movies. Yeah. So the point over here is when we talk about templates, in fact, in this template of romance, I still remember, there are, it has gone to the next level of the hands touching each other, and they don't meet in this janam, they meet in the next birth. And in that tone also multiple movies have come up. Yeah, I think if you're able to understand what I'm saying, I don't really want to name a particular movie because there are many movies with the same template. So templates actually, after a point of time, will kind of irritate you. How many times will you watch the same story again and again? You just see, only when innovations or a very creative works come into picture, a different kind of a storytelling happens into picture, only then there is interest among the audience to come and watch the movie. Templates do work. I'm not in denial of that. So then storytelling has to be given the priority. Same template but a different storytelling, something like that. Our lesson plan is nothing different. It is exactly the same. If we keep on coming to the class and follow the same template every period, every month, every year, there is going to be a framing that's happening. When you remember, we had a statement mentioning like one of the teachers going and telling the principals, saying that, sir, I've got 15 years of experience. The principal is a very smart person. He says that, are you really sure you have 15 years of experience? The teacher is like, absolutely. I've got really 15 years of experience. I've done so many things, blah, blah, blah. Then the principal asks, are you sure that you've got 15 years of experience? Or is it 1 year of experience repeated 15 times? I'll repeat it. Or is it 1 year of experience repeated 15 times? So it's a very powerful statement. It's not like when there is no innovation, you're just repeating the same thing, and that cannot be considered under experience category. So it's important for us to understand and set the context that lesson plan can never be the same for probably every year. If I'm there in the place, probably I would try to make it every month. Some of you like every week, and some of like every period, in fact. So this kind of liberty of having different kind of lesson plan for every period is an attribute of time. I mean, it's very difficult for us to have time to draft a lesson plan which can cater to everything. But sticking to one template allows us completion, allows us surety of we have completed so and so chapters. End of the day, an academic year is still an academic year, which is time bound. It's important for us to categorize the knowledge and the skills that we have to impart to the students. Let's understand some of the templates today from instructional design perspective. Teachers will definitely like it. The first slide, this is how it goes like. Look at this. General lesson plan. Generally, how do you write? You have a chapter name, you write the learning objectives. It can be covered in 4 periods. Probably this chapter can be covered in 4 periods. I'm going to cover the first period, the first 3 pages of the textbook, right? Second period, the next 3 pages. The third period, remaining pages. Fourth period, probably worksheet, question and answers. My chapter is complete. Homework assignments. Yeah, I forgot. I'm going to write that. That's it. This is the most simple form of lesson plan, and it's a simple format, and I completely support this. But when I'm supporting this particular format, there are certain questions that we need to ask, especially from competency based education perspective. What are those questions? Let's quickly understand. And for that, this is how it looks like. First one, did I ensure to give real life examples of the concept covered? Remember, teachers, this is going to be completely from the perspective of Indian education system, which is called as competency based education system right now. So whatever are the properties of competency based education system, that's what we're going to compare. So did I ensure to give real life example of the concept covered? So I'm going to go to the next slide to show you the features of competency based education. That's called as real life orientation. Let's go back. Let's go back. Did I ensure to connect with the students emotionally? Now, competency based education, real life oriented. Second point is takes affective domain into consideration during the learning process. I hope you're getting it. Let's go back. Let's go back. The third question, did I ensure that the students get an opportunity to extend their learning and attain mastery? Now, this can happen only with competency based education teachers, but for attaining mastery, you need a lot of time. How do you incorporate in our system? For that, it is allows for mastery of concepts by giving some extension of an activity. Let them continue doing this set back at home, something like that. Let's go back. The fourth question, did I ensure to ask tricky questions? Now, what do you really mean by tricky questions? Here in this case, it's about evaluating, it is about analyzing, it is about synthesizing, it's about interpreting, it's about solving a real life problem, blah blah blah. All these are coming under the category of tricky questions, basically HOTS or competency oriented questions. Assertion and reasoning can be part of this. Yeah, absolutely. Next is, did I ensure that, okay, let me go with the property over here. Teaching is through asking questions and presenting scenarios at different levels of thinking process. That's the property of competency based education. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back. Did I ensure that the students self-reflect on their learning and make decisions? Now, this is called as new scenario awareness. Competency-based education is not about you give them all the scenarios that they will come across in life and they're able to face it. No, it's not at all that. It is about giving the ability, even if a new scenario comes into picture, the children are able to solve the problem. That's different and difficult. So did I ensure that students self reflect on their learning and make decisions? The properties with respect to focus is high on metacognition and not just recall, that they're able to think again. It also talks about research based pedagogy, which is about retrieval of information and not really feeding of information. Retrieval of information means the ability of a child to know what they've learned, use that particular aspect, and solve a problem. That's nice, right? Now, this is again competency based education feature, and we have checked if it is part of the lesson plan. Did I ensure the students get the clarity of what is not the concept? See, sometimes it's very easy for us to really teach whatever is there in the textbook, but it's very difficult to teach what is not the concepts. Indirectly, what I'm trying to tell the teachers is, it will be very important for a teacher to know. In fact, it is also said that a good teacher is the one who is able to find out where the child might get the doubt, or where the child, so before even you speak, sometimes I have seen this. My teachers used to continue teaching, and they'll say something deliberately wrong and still continue teaching. And when they continue teaching, even by saying wrong with full confidence, the children try to, I mean, my friends and we used to try to listen to them, but we know that there's something odd about it, but we're not sure about it. Then suddenly one boy or a girl will be, ma'am, you said wrong, ma'am. I think it is not like. So that's when you come back. I hope you're able to understand. So identifying misconception is an important area, for which making sure that we ask the questions regularly by making the children understand what is not the concept is equally important. Let's understand its property under this category. Yeah. Strong emphasis on reasoning skills. Why A is the answer and why B is not the answer, given equal importance. Nice, right? And finally, coming to the last point, did I ensure to ask questions regularly? This is called as to address possible misconceptions. And the final features of competency based education is misconceptions addressed at regular intervals. We've tried understanding based on whatever NCRT or CBSE has given us the documents. Based on that, these are the 8 basic necessities of any lesson plan. I think you would have already taken a screenshot of this if possible, or else you can take the screenshot of this. And now I would also like to very strongly tell you that some teachers will like writing down all these things, but some teachers would just like to have the checkbox. According to me, if I am the person in one of the schools, I would prefer to have a checkbox for every period. And rather than writing the headers, I'll just write, did I ensure to give? Now, instead of real life example, I'll write the real life example. Did I ensure to give the example of Ola and Uber for this particular chapter? Something like that. Then did I ensure to did I ensure to make children feel empathetic about that particular farmer? I hope you're able to understand. My lesson plan over here is not in the form of a format where there is a header and below that you have written what you're going to do. My format is going to be completely based on checklists. Checklists and checklist. I find it to be quite interesting because it's like it gives me a strict direction and a very simple format of writing. And interestingly, checklist doesn't really talk about the way of presentation. I mean, you can say whatever. So in fact, the point number 6 can be used to start the lesson rather than starting with point number 1. So that's one liberty that I get in this particular scenario, and that's the reason few ensures to be checked. We have drafted it out. That's it. That's it. So a general lesson plan could be a chapter name, learning objective, can be covered in 4 periods: 1, 2, 3, 4. Homework assignment, it's absolutely fine to write it, but have you ensured that these are the things present? Now, some schools and educationists or educators across the globe, they make sure there's a proper format that can have all these pointers. That's it. And to have all these pointers, they come up with multiple theories, education theories. So let's quickly understand what are those education theories one by one, and that would give us more clarity. And these theories are somewhere called as, come on, let's go to the next slide. Okay, called as instructional design. So, in a broader systematic process for creating educational experiences from entire courses to individual lessons. It's strategic, focusing on aligning goals, content methods, and assessments over time. Models like ADDIE model, analyze, design, develop, implement, evaluate. Anybody is able to relate to this? Or Gagne's 9 events guide instruction design. A lesson plan is a product of instructional design, a practical output of its principles applied to a specific classroom moment. So lesson plan can be even for 5 minutes. How about that? No, I do not know. In IB curriculum, I think I remember the lesson plan is really exhaustive. You need to write a lot. You need to have too many checkpoints to be catered to, especially in IB curriculum. Yeah, CBSE is very, very easy for that matter. I'm not sure how many of you follow that, but anyways, a lesson plan is just a small product of a bigger. In fact, some schools have got a different lesson plan for the whole chapter, and some schools have got a different lesson plan for every period. So it's like either you make chapter wise lesson plan or you make period wise lesson plan. It's up to you. That's a different idea. So the moment we talk about instructional design, it's all about our actions. Now, here, when we talk about ADDIE model, it is about analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. So, what people generally do is analyze is the first step of this particular lesson plan, and ADDIE model is kind of used predominantly in training systems as well. For example, if I am a trainer and I need to go to an office where I need to train the teachers or HMs or principals, or it could be corporate employees, the first thing as a trainer I need to understand is uh how, like, what level are my students at right now. Basically that can be done through something called as TNAs, training need analysis, and some people call it as baseline test as well. In fact, there are multiple organizations in our country to do this. I think asset is one of them. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So the point is, ADDIE model is all about analyzing where the students are standing right now, and based on that, we start designing our lesson plans. That's where it comes as designing. Now, right after designing, you keep on developing it regularly based on your implementation. That's the fourth step. And finally, you evaluate. You evaluate not only the students, the learners, but also yourself. Like, were you able to, do so and so? So it's like analyze. If exploring water is the chapter in grade six, identify competency, investigate water states, design, plan to explain evaporation and draw diagrams. That's basically your larger picture of designing. Develop is create a demo, water in a dish, and MCQs related to that. Then develop, implement, conduct a 60-minute lesson with experiment and quiz, and evaluate, check diagrams and answers to why do clouds form. This is basically called as ADDIE model. Now, nowhere it is mentioning much of what are the competencies, what are the learning objectives and outcomes. That could be on the top that you can separately mention. According to me, ADDIE model is more of a chapter oriented lesson plan rather than period oriented lesson plan. This could be one very good instructional design. Let's go to the next one. Now, right after this, there is something interesting called as 7-step lesson plan. Instructional theory into practice by Madeline Hunter. They call it as Hunter's 7-step lesson plan. Now, this is quite interesting, but I very strongly recommend you to be very confident about this, and only then you put it, because you might feel tired after a point of time because there are 7 steps. What are those 7 steps? It's really interesting. Look at this. The first one is called as anticipatory set. Now, this is anticipatory set. It's all about directly asking, putting a scenario in front of the students and try asking their opinions. This could be the area where the context is set. This could be the area where the rationale is set, the rationale of this particular chapter. Why am I even this particular anticipatory set is going to be the place where you provide strong reasoning for why we are learning this chapter, which was not really the case in ADDIE model in the first step, at least at analyze. Probably during the design phase, you could do that, but it's not exclusively mentioned. But here it is mentioned. Next is objective. What exactly is the teacher's objective? Solve fraction problems. Very simple. That's it. It's going to be the lesson objective. Then input, explain halves and quarters. Look at this. We have to explain the halves and quarters throughout the period. And there is something called as modeling, check, and guided practice. These three things come together: modeling, check, guided practice. First, modeling may you show something called as half of 8 on a board, maybe some example, and you say half of 8. But next is you are asking the students what could be 1/4 of 12. Then I hope you're able to understand. You are explaining something, and right after that, you're coming up with a question. That is check. Guided practice is basically you make the students sit into like pairs, or you are there with them and you solve more number of examples, half of 10, etc., etc. Independent practice worksheet with fraction sums. This is Hunter's 7-step lesson plan. Not really much different. It's just that they've got 7 steps written individually. According to me, the 3 steps of modeling, check, and guided practice can easily be combined in our case. Let's go to the next one. Gagne's 9 events of instruction. This is again quite interesting, quite famous, by the way. This particular personality, what they did is they focused on pedagogical aspects. Whatever we did right now so far, it was more from the perspective of I would say content. But Gagney's 9 events are not content only, they are pedagogy also. Look at this. The first itself is gain attention. You do whatever you want, but gain attention. For example, you can bring one real model of stone. The chapter is early humans, social science in grade 6, and then they're bringing a stone. You're gaining attention. Right after that, inform objectives. We'll analyze early human tools. You're telling the students. Then recall, present, guidance, performance, feedback, assess, and retention. All these are very similar to the previous ones. So gain attention is one extra area there. Gagney's 9 events stand a little different, which is not part of the other lesson plans. See, it's all looking very same, but they're really different. Let's go with this one, which I really like and follow the most of the time, called as understanding by design. Now, this is called as backward design. People generally use understanding by design by writing what will be the learning outcomes first, and then creating the question paper next, and then teaching the chapter. It is like, students, let's go back to the worksheet. Everybody go back to the worksheet. Everybody's going to the worksheet. They're reading the questions and they are coming back to learn the chapter. That's different and interesting, right? Look at this. For this, I think we should have a video. I would like to share the screen, teachers. Then you can, yes, it will be visible right now. In 3, 2, 1.
So for the first one, you can write down 7.5.
Prior to UBD, I didn't have as much cohesiveness. I was teaching content and I was covering material. I would do some fun, exciting labs and then test. Understanding by design allows me to be way more purposeful and deliberate about what I want my students to understand and how am I going to assess that.
So if the nutrients are there and like the pH is too high or too low, the plant wouldn't grow because the pH isn't right.
The vision of MRH is to prepare kids for what the world's going to be like when they leave. Understanding by design as a school-wide philosophy is helping our kids prepare for the 21st century.
Understanding by design is a curriculum planning instrument. It's backwards design in a sense.
You get the big ideas first. What do you want the kids to come away with? And then we work backwards. What would be the final test, the project, and then you create the individual lessons that all aim toward that test, which is ultimately aimed toward the big ideas. We're going to do the final lit circle discussion for I'm down.
So the discussion question is, culture is both a unifying and divisive force in our lives. Mishna experiences this as she attempts to fit into a variety of cultures.
We are reading the book I'm Down. It's a memoir about a girl named Mishna growing up in two different cultures, like the white culture and the African American culture.
The enduring understandings for each unit are not content or skill specific for English. They're big ideas that I think the kids need to know when they go out in the real world. So reading and writing memoirs helps us understand humanity. Another understanding is culture is a divisive and unifying factor. That's a real interesting one.
I think it was more unifying. Her dad was finally at peace with who she wanted to be and the culture that she chose to be a part of.
And then essential questions, the teacher gives you at the beginning of the unit, then by the end, you should be able to answer it based on what you learned. It's usually more open, where you can explain more, not just like yes or no.
Every person's life, it shapes how they are, and although the experiences might be traumatic, it just...
If you write the questions and understandings the right way, kids will be constructing their own knowledge, which is the point.
She actually knows what she wants out of life, and she's like working hard to get it.
Every single teacher here writes their own units and courses. You take into account the standards, but ultimately, what are the core ideas we want our students to walk away with?
The enduring understandings and the essential questions, they can help people stay on track and understand what the purpose of our assignments and our labs are. So if they look up on the wall and see, well, this is what we're trying to do.
So we're going to pick up with our lessons that we
That's it. It's the continuation of the same idea of having the questions right in the beginning. So you have the learning outcomes and objectives established, and right after that, it's the questions, and then the chapter begins. So it's like, how many of you do this? I do not know. In English question paper, especially, there'll be first area called as comprehension, and there'll be a passage, and based on that, certain questions will be asked. right? So the students generally go read the questions first, and then they come back to the passage and paragraph so that they can spot the answers pretty early and they can start writing it. Do you do that? If yes, then that's great. That's basically called as learning by design or understanding by design, something like that. Yeah. Anyways, let's quickly go with the next aspect of it, and that next aspect is with respect to format model. Oh, I'm not shared the screen. Let me do that. Yeah. So format model is quite simple. Most of you might know about it. It's about the WH questions. So they have four quadrants. A quadrant, like you have four quadrants. First is why. Why am I learning this? Is it really necessary to my life? Something like that. Right after that, what, which is inform. How, which is practice, and what if is basically apply. So why, what, how, and what if are the four areas of format model. Basically, this is it is a very simple format of lesson planning, not really widely adopted as such because it doesn't really cover too many things. But suppose if I have to plan something and I have a session in half an hour, this could be something which will ensure all the pointers are there. That's it. That's format model. 5e model is something very common in India. Many people use it because this is pretty much applicable to competency-based education system as well. And they talk about 5e model. It's about engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. I think most of you know this. Engagement is related to creating the need for learning that, which is basically spark interest. And what is the activity? For example, activity could be if water cycle is the question, then why puddles dry? Why puddles dry? Then Bloom's domain is about affective domain, receiving. Competency link is curiosity triggering area. Where are you teaching this from? Textbook. And what are the assessment area? It's just the question answers, verbal response. That's called as engagement. Right after that, you've got explore, then explain, then elaborate and evaluate. So everything has got its own approach over here. 5e model, generally I use it for our computer science curriculum, and we have written the lesson plan based on that. I feel that it's quite flexible. Anybody can take it up and quickly like, oh yes, I can give my own example in this area. It'll ensure that under 5e's, all the properties, you remember, did I ensure to do this, gets easily covered over here. That's with respect to 5e model. We also worked on something very important called as C4 model, which is context setting, connect to real life, concept exploration, and finally competency building. So this was exclusively for our computer science curriculum that we made, and we were supported by BITS Pilani, IIT Hyderabad, various people from respective institutions. So it's something that's created. So the point is anybody can create their own lesson plan just to ensure at the last minute that these are the things should be there. The first one, aims of education, single liner on the top. Curricular goals and aims, single liner on the top, but varies with each subject. Competency, single liner on the top, but varies for group of chapters. Group of chapters. I'll repeat it. Group of chapters. Then learning outcomes, multiple learning outcomes for a single chapter. Learning objectives, multiple objectives for each learning outcome. Now, once this is drafted properly on the top, then you have got your methods. What would you do? You will break down time with purpose. You will plan hands-on for experiential learning and real-world task. You will have assessment across cognitive, psychomotor, and affective domains. Will have flexibility in terms of manipulating the lesson plan. Probably I can extend one period or reduce one period. So it's like this can happen when you have lesson plan for 1 week or lesson plan for 2 months, not more than that. Don't prepare, have a proper 2 or 3 days gap, and based on whatever you've done in the last 2 months, you revamp your lesson plan again for the next 2 months, something like that. Balance between intellectuality and emotions, cognitive and affective domain, very important. That's it. So these are the lesson plan must consist, and based on that you can have your own format. This is what we checked right in the beginning. Did I ensure to give real life example, to connect with students emotionally, ensure the students to get an opportunity to extend their learning and attain mastery, ensure to ask tricky questions, that's hot questions and competency oriented. Did I ensure that the students self reflect on their learning and make decisions, new scenarios? They generally call it as complex overt response for that particular area. Google about it, you'll know. Did I ensure the students get the clarity of what is not the concept, then what is the concept? Did I ensure to ask questions regularly? That's it. So this is with respect to competency based education lesson plan. Finally, I have got one important point. Every teacher will have their own style. Now, style of teaching is completely independent of whatever we spoke right now. The teachers can come up with their own way of methodologies that doesn't exist in B.Ed at all, or M.Ed at all for that matter. This is what you have invented, and it's matching with your attitude, something like that. It could be anything. So there are multiple strategies across the globe. People have done a lot of research on that area. Some people, I'll show you, they use mind maps. Actually, mind maps even I use a lot. We simply, make the arrows right from the top to bottom, and this is how my chapter should go. I'm just checking on the mind map if it is there in this particular notebook that I made. No, 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 no. It's not here. Otherwise, I would have shown you. Okay, yeah, it is there, but the handwriting is very bad. I don't want to show. So you can actually write one below the other, and under each, this is how my class flow is going to go. So mind map is a tool with which you design your lesson plan. It's interesting, right? Right after that, role playing scenarios could be part of your teaching. There is something called as gallery walk. So basically, you take the students somewhere out or somewhere where you have got the models of things, something like that. It could be even an excursion or an industrial visit for that matter. Think, pair, share is a very common activity where you involve the children into the concepts. Then learning stations. Learning stations is all about dividing the students into certain groups, and an area of a classroom or a school is given for only one kind of an exploration. For that, for example, if you want to explore more on the internet, so that's called as technology station. So go to technology station, probably a school computer lab, and let them learn and come back. Did you go to technology station right after that? Did you go to the gallery station? Something like that. So you have another area. And you come to an assessment station where only questions are asked, nothing else. So station methodology, learning stations, which people call, it's generally used in something called as blended learning models. You should read about it. It's nice. Then gamification with points or challenges, especially quiz competitions or treasure hunt in a school. These could be some of the activities that you could include. Right after that, storytelling, probably with a twist. The complete story is true except one information. What is that information? Something like that. Then audio video content could be used in the class. Yeah, these are some of the common ways. I have one methodology that I really like. It's called as 60-second strategy, the last question of the period. Please watch this. It's by Edutopia, and they've done a very good job. You'll be able to hear the sound.
Go around and look at what some of the other groups have done.
At the end of any lesson, I always like to ask the question, what would you do differently if you had more time?
Oh, they use baking soda.
We don't have unlimited time, but we always want kids thinking about what could I improve.
There's still a lot of water.
First, I pose the question.
If you had more time, what would you do differently?
Next, I have students write down their independent thoughts. They each take turns sharing their ideas and being a respectful listener while the other person is sharing.
Less water disruption. Who would like to share someone else's awesome design that they saw?
I like them to share the other person's thoughts so that those quiet kids can still have their ideas shared out with the class.
She would use the things that we...
Instead of a student saying, I'm done, what can I do now? They look at their work critically and they say, okay, well, what could I improve on this?
Thank you all for a wonderful job.
So this was a 60-second strategy. Might not seem to be a great thing, or might seem to be really a great thing. But the point is, anybody can have their own style. Teachers, remember, all these lesson plans are just to make sure or ensure that the basic pointers of that particular education system is taken care in our execution. That's it, in our implementation. This is not at all to take away the freedom of a teacher's choice of teaching something. It's mandatory to make lesson plan. It's unfortunate in the country because not many people really follow this religiously, and not really everybody is so good at documenting things. Some teachers are really good with teaching, but their documentation is really poor. But unfortunately, you're a teacher, documentation is important, so we have to have that skill as well. That is the reason lesson plan, one or the other way, it is made mandatory by your school leaders. Not only that, it gives a very clear picture for the leaders out there to scope out what new things could be added or subtracted from the school. So if anybody out there feels that lesson plan is unnecessary, I would like to very strongly support your point by saying that yes, it's absolutely probably because you are very good at having the hold of what you're going to do in the class. However, that thought process needs to be conveyed to the right person so that it's a collaborative environment, because it's a school, right? So somewhere you have to do it. So you can have your own style of executing and implementing things, but documentation of the same is very important. Unless and until things are not on paper, words from the mouth are never taken seriously. You know that, right? Thank you so much, teachers. It was great interacting with one and all for this Super Sunday workshop. I would like to meet you again with another interesting topic. Next time, it's going to be more related to CBSE updates on new circular of teacher training programs, on new circular of changes in the textbooks, the formats, the examples. We'll have a proper name given to it, and then we'll quickly put it on our website, superteacher.in. Click on the event section. You'll be able to see what's the next Super Sunday topic. Click on register to get the Zoom link on Sunday before joining. All the teachers who have joined for the first time, thank you so much for joining. Great interacting with one and all. I would like to request you to please keep joining and spread this information about Super Sunday Workshop. The certification will be issued to all the participants who have completed the reflection form scoring 7 and above. I'll repeat it, scoring 7 and above. Today's topic is quite interesting and the questions are also quite interesting. You have to complete this reflection form before 12 midnight today. Only then the certification is taken. If any response comes tomorrow, then it's not considered for certification. Please don't mistake me. It's very difficult for me to keep a track. That is the reason Sunday night is the time. So before that, I would request everybody to complete the reflection form. I hope this session provided some insights towards what exactly lesson planning is. And I think most of you might know most of these things. That's why right at the beginning, we established that's going to be a revision. If you learn something new, mention that on the feedback form. Thank you so much, teachers. There are any queries you can put in the chat. Otherwise, it was great interacting. Have a super Sunday. Spend time with your family. I'll meet you again. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. If there is, okay, I can see some lesson plan formats coming on the chat. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, that's a good question. Lesson plan need not be the same for every subject. Every subject can have its own format. Wow, that's a very good point. Model lesson plan that's there on the drive, ma'am. It's there even on the reflection form. You will be able to see that. Can you? No, you can't see that right now, I guess. Wait a minute. Okay. Let me share it on the chat as well. It's not completely updated, by the way. It will be done by today evening, most probably. So you should be able to see that. Oh, great. Remember to score 7 and above, teachers. Whatever we spoke was not at all subject specific to the teachers. Yeah, you're right. It's there in the last question. I think you should be able to see that. Yes. Perfect. In the last question in the description, you'll be able to find it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. All the teachers will be getting the certificate by Friday. Thank you, Bindu ma'am. Means a lot. Lesson plan has to be different for every teacher. But if the school has a specific format, I would request you to please follow it. They would have done their research. If you feel that one or the other column is unnecessary, please report it to your principal. Thank you, Vimi ma'am. Premalata ma'am, thank you so much. Chetali ma'am, that's a good question. Actually, we didn't have a specific format for kindergarten as such because there are a lot other factors coming into play. And whatever we spoke today, it's more appropriate towards grade 3 to 8 or 3 to 10 and 12. Not really for kindergarten. Kindergarten has got a lot of the factors like domains of development is into considered, and the pedagogical aspect is directly related to emotions. So, what are those basic emotional aspect that has to be there in the lesson plan? Frankly speaking, we didn't put that over here. There's going to be a separate session on early childhood care and education very soon, probably right after 2 more Sundays. I don't have the timetable with me. That time it will be discussed, ma'am, exclusively for pre-primary education. Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's right. It can be different for different subjects. It has to be. Thank you. Thank you so much. If you have any queries, thank you, Jagjit sir. If you have any queries, you can please put it on the feedback form. We generally respond to the feedback form. Wait. Shesha Vittaram. Shesha sir, thank you. Thank you, teachers. I would like to close the session for the day. I'll meet you in the next Super Sunday workshop. Jai Hind.